Good afternoon and welcome to the 219th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. I'm excited about today's show. We're going to look at three different classifications with our guest. It's going to be Lincoln County head coach Lee Chomskis. They're in Class A Division II. Had a great run last year. Fell to the eventual state champions, I believe in the semifinals, Bowden. They're returning a ton of talent. They're a great team at running the ball, and they have some big-time backs returning for 2023. Then we're going to have North Forsyth head coach Robert Kraft on. They had a great season. I think them being in 6A is going to be very key for them. Obviously, West Forsyth, Forsyth Central, the other Forsyth schools are in 7A, so they find themselves in a great region with Gainesville. That'll be a competitive season. And then we'll close the show out with North Paulding head coach Don Stark. They're in 7A. We got to see them play last year. They're going to be returning a ton of talent, but also replacing some key players. We will see if they can take the next step in 2023. But let's go ahead and get started, see if we have Coach Chomskis on. Okay, we will wait momentarily. I think he texted me yesterday and said he's working the Masters this week, so maybe he's in Augusta. But of course, that's not that far of a drive from Lincoln County. They are right on that border of South Carolina. And one of the things I want to talk to him about, when we look at these key conversations and committee votes that the GHSA has had probably the last, decade and a half since I've been at SCORE, a lot of the debate is about what's advantageous for the public schools versus the private schools, the smaller schools versus the bigger schools. We've seen the creation of new classifications, the split between A private, A public. Now it's Class A Division II, Class A Division I. They're in the Class A Division II. And one of the biggest voices for the smaller schools, for the public schools, in every one of these debates has seemed to be coming from Lincolnton and Lincoln County. They've been the top advocate, and so I know they were pleased with the decision to split up Class A into the Division I and Division II based off enrollment, and that's really key for them. It's helpful. I said at the beginning of the season I thought a team like Bowden had a better chance because a lot of the bigger schools in the A public, like Irwin County, et cetera, they went up to the Class A Division I, and that opened up opportunities. And sure enough, we saw Bowden and their big offensive line win the state title for the first time in decades. I think first time since '91. And so I really like Lincoln County's chances this year, and that was huge for them. When he first took over, Lincoln County, they've won 14 all-time state titles. We all know Larry Campbell, what he did there. But they had 25 players on their entire roster. So they've been building those numbers up. And that's one of the challenges that a smaller school, I'm not sure the enrollment off the top of my head, but keeping those numbers up is really tough. Sometimes you have a bigger senior class come through, and then sometimes just the way it works, you only have 5 or 6 guys. And one of the things that's unique about the Class A programs is a lot of times they're going to have to play guys 2 ways. So the springtime's really important. You got to have a whiteboard, see who can play where, prepare guys at multiple positions, and use that accordingly. Let me see. I think he should be good to go. All right, so real quick, their schedule, they're going to play Bryan County again. That's one of the public schools that's in the Division I. That was a really good game last year. Out the gates, Lincoln County won 23-20. They played McCormick, South Carolina, the following week. That's a school that typically does play those border schools in Georgia. That's right on the other side by Augusta. They won that one 27-6. Then they played ECI, that's Emmanuel County Institute. That was their first loss of the season. They were ranked number 7 at the time. That bumped them out because they lost 41-27. And then they played Commerce, another Class A Division I team. They closed out non-region play against Richmond Academy, a Class 3A program, another solid program in that Augusta area. And then they swept the region, that's Region 8. And it was actually the first time they beat Washington Wilkes and Aquinas in the same season since 2011. They had the 41-14 win over Washington Wilkes, and then it was a big one against Aquinas, 28-24. That game right there was a contrast of styles. Aquinas is a really good passing team. Their guys get open. He said after the game, it seems like they don't drop anything. They're a really polished passing team where Lincoln County relies on that run game, and they were actually down twice in that game, but really willed themselves to the victory, played that tough football game, and then held them, I think, to just a field goal. Yep, because it was 24-21, held them to just a field goal in the fourth quarter, got that game-winning touchdown, a huge win to propel them to the region title. Closed out the region with 3 more wins to return to the rankings, 31-21 over Greene County, 35-0 over Warren County, 35-8 over Towns County. Then the first round of the playoffs, they played Wilkinson County, a big victory, 42-8. Dooley County, 24-21, and then the Bowden game was a 45-28 loss in the semifinals. So it looks like they did get a bye in the first round. Let me double check that. But right off the bat, I mean, besides just the obvious change they've had with having just 25 guys on the roster when you first stepped in for the program, to finding themselves in the Class A Division II, that's another advantage. So you get your roster numbers up. You're in a division where you can challenge yourself in non-region by playing the Division I powerhouses, but then you have those familiar programs in the region, and then the playoff field is more evenly matched just in terms of the overall enrollment. And so I really think they have a chance this year. They came really close this past season. Obviously, I thought Bowden just had that clear advantage over other teams just with their senior class, and then their offensive line. You don't see offensive lines that talented, that big, and with that much experience in the Class A Division II realm, and they really use that offensive line to, I mean, we saw it in the state championship game against Schley County, who is also a great team. And Schley County is actually the smallest school in the state in terms of enrollment numbers, but they had a record-setting season. But Bowden just could not be stopped the entire game, and it was just a will that their offensive line just kept them moving. And obviously, Coach Finley over there, if you know anything about that guy, I don't think anyone treats the weight room more seriously than he does. Okay, so still can't get, that's odd. I texted him right before it. So let's go over some of their returning stars. So I want to bring up something that I think we'll have it on the ticker here that I thought was interesting just off the bat. They have been doing a ton of 7-on-7 since March. Thought Coach Dixon of Creekside made a great point when he was talking to Najee yesterday on the show. Creekside won the Corky Kell 7-on-7 tournament last season. A huge field, 40-plus teams. You have to basically run the table, win 12 games to get it done, and they won. But as he mentioned, they're a team that during the regular season, they're going to run first, and yet they get out there in the 7-on-7s and take advantage of that to just build that passing attack to complement the run game. And so seeing Lincoln County, knowing that they're going to pride themselves on the run, the work they're doing in these 7-on-7s, that gives them that confidence to spark the big plays and keep defenses honest when you have a rhythm and a reliable passing attack. So on April 2nd, thought this was incredible. Kelby Glaze, a freshman, he'll obviously be a sophomore this next season, but he's power cleaning 290 pounds. That is big time. The form's incredible. You can see it right there. And that is a big number. If you're already that physically mature your freshman year, that is such a strong foundation to keep building on. And, I mean, gosh, I remember when we first started learning the power clean, it's like first you want to get that 135. You want to get the 45-pound plate on both sides. Once you get that, you can steadily kind of add that 25. You're trying to get the 185. He's going to be power cleaning 315 possibly by the end of the summer. And then you got to think by the end of his varsity career, he's going to be at the 315, 350, 375. That is elite. That is a number that really would put him in the top percentage around the state. So Kelby Glaze, he's class of 2026 and squats 455, benches 300 already, and he plays running back and linebacker. That is huge. You can get not only young guys to step up that are physically gifted to be out there on Friday nights, but to have a guy like that in the future to keep putting Lincoln County on the map, that is huge. Another guy, Jerry Beard, he is an incoming freshman. He's still in middle school, and he is in the 700-pound club. Already squats 315, benches 200, power cleans 225. So Jerry Beard, he'll be making his varsity debut next year with Lincoln County, one of the best teams in the state in terms of most state titles. He's already 5'8", 170, and he plays running back and strong safety. He'll be a two-way player. So I just think that's impressive, the strength that these young guys have. And sometimes the people that follow Class 7A and these powerhouses, it's easy to look at all the way down in Class A Division II as if it's just like a completely different world, but it's really not. You have athletes on these teams that are just as strong, just as gifted. The difference between the classes is just the enrollment size and roster size, and that really is the difference in the gap. But in terms of the individual playmakers, their speed, and their ability, they have athletes that can compete with anyone. So we mentioned last year it was the first time they had beaten both Washington, Wilkes, and Aquinas. You look at Lincoln County all time, they've probably squared off with 90 to 100 different programs, and I'd say there's maybe 3 or 4 that have a winning record against them. And those are teams that, like Irwin County, where they've only played them like 3 or 4 times. And so what is the secret to that sustained success? It's obviously the pride they have in the program. Lincoln County, as one of the smaller schools, they have just been getting it done for so long. Larry Campbell won the first state title there in 76. They won in 77. Again, 85, 86, 87, 89, 90, 93, 95. Then 2005, 2006, and of course Larry Campbell has the all-time most wins in Georgia high school coaching history. So big shoes to fill. But Coach Chomskis, he comes over from Vidalia. He's a veteran coach. He was there from 2001 to 2019. His first year at Lincoln County was the COVID year. They went 7-5, then improved on that the next year, 8-4, and then made it to the semis last year. One win away from playing for the state title. And so Lincoln County's last state championship came in 2006. They're trying to get number 15 this season. In terms of my rankings, I handle Class 7A through 4A. Seth's going to do the Class 3 down to Class A Division 2. I think Lincoln County finished, if they didn't finish 4th last year, I think that'd be a crime, but maybe they were 8th in the final poll, but they made the semis last year. They have all this returning talent. I 100% would be putting them in the top 4, top 3, if not number 1, honestly. But we'll see. That's just a prediction. We'll look into that a little more. So let's look at more of the returning starters. So in terms of running the ball, Samaj Jenkins, he was a junior last season. He was one of 2 players for Lincoln County that ended up making All-State. He had 118 carries, 1,002 yards, and a team-high 17 touchdowns. The second leading rusher, though, in this offensive system was their quarterback, Trey Huff. He nearly passed the ball for 1,000 yards, came up short of that, about 52% completion percentage, and then he rushed for 802 yards, 11 touchdowns. The backup last year was freshman Makai Wade. He didn't see too much time. He did throw for a touchdown and then was able to run the ball for 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, my guess, we didn't get to connect with Coach Chomskis. We'll definitely try to get him on soon. But clearly, Makai Wade is going to be that next quarterback for Lincoln County. He did get an opportunity to pass the ball last year and then definitely showcased his ability to run the ball, racking up 500 yards. As a team, 240 rushing yards per game. They rushed for 3,000, over 3,000 yards as a team, 41 touchdowns. Also, Samaj Jenkins, who we've seen in these 7-on-7 highlights, as their running back, he caught a team-high 5 touchdowns. So he'll be dangerous out of the backfield. Okay. So we'll wrap it up right there with Lincoln County. We do have Coach Kraft ready to roll, so we'll go ahead and thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau. We'll be back on the other side.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So let's just jump right into it with North Forsyth head coach Robert Kraft. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you for coming on. So is this your spring break period? You guys already have it, or is it coming up?
Yeah, no, we're on spring break right now.
All right, well, I appreciate the time. You get to go anywhere, or you just taking it easy, getting ready for spring ball?
Yeah, a little bit of downtime, some, spending time with family. Had a chance, went to the Masters on Monday, so that was a lot of fun. Took my son to the Braves game last night, catching up on some yard work. So, just a little bit of everything.
Nice. That sounds like the most Georgia week of all time. The
Yeah,
Masters, the Braves.
that's right. Yeah, we've had a good week.
Oh, yeah, Najee wants to know, what'd you think of that that walk-off home run?
Man, it was crazy. So my son's 10, so for his birthday, which was a few weeks ago, he asked for tickets for the opening opening, home opener or whatever. And yeah, what a way to start the year. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. So, how has the rest of the off season been going? I know you guys are coming off a really tough season. You guys played a ton of the top brass in the state for sure. You're in a region with Gainesville. You square off with Hughes in the second round of the playoffs. Replace a bunch of guys, but I mean, what has the overall just attitude been just after last year? What you guys were able to accomplish, and then how to keep this thing going?
Yeah, the off season's been good. It's always you have different phases of the off season where you try to find out, what the makeup of your team's going to be every year. Each team has such a different, makeup and chemistry characteristics of it. So we've been able to begin to see that from this team. Certainly going back to January and just beginning in the weight room, January, February. March, we began to get on the field with some different conditioning and speed and agility, and that brings just a new opportunity to see what's this team going to have. And April will bring more on the field training and work, and then leading up to spring practice. So this team, this is a smaller senior class for us. This is the senior class that. When East Forsyth opened a few years ago, this was the senior class that was probably the most affected, where we lost some numbers and players in this class. This is a small group right now. We have 16 seniors, which usually our senior classes are closer to like 22, 24. But it's been good. We have guys who have in this senior class who have plenty of experience. And then also, this off season's allowed us to see some guys who, starting to come to the top and trying to establish themselves as soon to be leaders for the upcoming year.
Yeah, and I know you do replace some really versatile guys. Logan Curry's probably the top one that comes to my mind, a guy that can do a lot of different things. So in terms of spring, how competitive are these position battles going to be? How open-minded is the coaching staff, and what's that communication look like just in terms of you going to the linebackers coach and talking to them about how that position's progressing, and just making sure that those position groups are all on the same page and kind of know the game plan in and out?
Yeah. So we do have several position groups that are going to have a lot of competition this spring. The wide receiver position room is one you mentioned, losing Logan Curry. Not only Logan, but we had 6 senior receivers last year, along with a senior quarterback. So that, those two rooms combined, the passing game, so to speak, was really led by veteran players completely. So the wide receiver room was one that we're looking for guys anxious to see players who are going to step up and provide, the needed contributions this year. The quarterback, where we have 3 players that we feel like are going to compete right now for the starting quarterback position, which is going to be a lot of fun this spring. All 3 of those guys have had great off seasons. They're doing everything you want them to do in terms of competition. And then so like you mentioned with the just the linebacker group, for example, and the linebacker coach. That is so. Our coaches are busy this time of year, beginning to really just go. We try to each off season we go back to square one. So even if you're I think about like Braden O'Shields. Braden O'Shields will be a returning senior starter. He's really played since his freshman year on the defensive line. But even somebody like him, we take him back to day one of our defensive playbook. Like he's never played in our defense before, and really just try to break it down and go over the basics. And that's what this time of year is about, in trying to be as far ahead ultimately when we get to the beginning of spring practice. But we want to teach the fundamentals, not take anything for granted this time of year. And, that's for the veteran players who are returning starters to the guy who's never stepped foot on the field on a Friday night.
Yeah, talk a little more about Braden O'Shields. Obviously, he's going to play a significant role, but just as one of the 16 seniors, a guy that was out there throughout the season, making tremendous growth as a junior last year, just what he's going to mean this upcoming season, what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely, we're going to lean on Braden a lot. He's going to be will be one of the top returning players in our region for sure. As a head coach, a couple areas from a position standpoint that you always point to where you hope to have experience and players who have high level playing ability, and the defensive line is certainly one of those areas. A position that affects, right? It affects the run game, it affects the passing game by affecting the quarterback. So Braden's a guy who's been there. He's started over 30 games in his career, played in playoff games, played in region championship games, you name it, he's been there. So he's a guy defensively that we're going to look to, losing some veteran players from last year. He's a guy that we're going to lean on, especially up front in the box, that he's going to really have a chance to be a player to really have just build on what he wants to do, looking towards his own future from a college standpoint. Brody Hancock is another one. Brody's had a great offseason. Brody's added 15 pounds of weight. Last year he played more of like a boundary defensive end, outside linebacker for us. He'll continue in that role. We're going to look at putting him to the field some too, lining up in a 5 technique. But one I think has a chance to really have just a breakout year. One that kind of just flew under the radar. He kind of played, last year with Chris Herock and Colin Miller. Wasn't a lot expected out of Brody, but I think he's one that last year his role was more as a pass rusher. With the added weight, I think he's going to play a big part and be able to be on the field for all snaps of defense. So excited to see him. A couple rising juniors, Coulter Vela, CJ Lanishan, are 2 safeties that have got just a ton of experience last year. They're going to be returning players. I see that they're going to have a chance to really have a big year for us defensively.
Yep, those are guys that we saw get some key turnovers last year. Let's talk a little more about Brody Hancock. So I'm looking at it, he had 8 sacks last year. So you're saying just with Colin Miller back there at the linebacker position, everything he was able to do, Brody was focusing on kind of a outside linebacker role, or maybe you're using him on the 3rd and longs to be that guy to get back there. But you're saying he's bulked up, and now this is his opportunity to be really an anchor on that defensive line.
Yeah, exactly. So, last year Brody was at times it was maybe more of a game plan specific, but Brody was a little bit lighter, kind of just more of a package type player. Now the crazy part about it is, like you just said, he had 8 sacks, so super productive. One of the leading sack, led one of the leading guys in the region with sacks, but with the added weight he's had, the added experience, and really just the need for us defensively, he's going to be a every down player. And what I'm excited about is because of what he's been able to do this offseason so far, he's going to allow himself to be a player regardless of what a team's doing offensively as far as their scheme. He's going to be in position to be productive regardless, not only against the pass, which is what he affected so much last year, but also be very influential in stopping the run. And I think he's going to allow us to be able to play him in a few different areas defensively.
And then last year, you guys passed the ball extremely well offensively. You were talking about the quarterback. So are there 3 guys in that competition right now?
Yeah. So we have 3 guys. We have 2 rising juniors, Parker Smaltz and Eli Sini. Both those guys were played JV for us primarily. Parker was our backup last year. And then a sophomore, Matthew Bray. And, being a former quarterback myself and having coached that position my whole career, really excited for those guys. They've done everything this offseason that you would expect and need out of your quarterback as far as just their work ethic goes. Their work ethic in the weight room, their work ethic, putting time into the playbook and preparing themselves mentally, and then just their own work individually as far as improving their skill work, position specific as a quarterback. So, Wes Roberts had a great year last year, but West was just, he didn't start until a little bit into his junior year, and then all last year as a senior. So, what these guys bring a little bit different from West. All three of them have the athletic ability to make plays with their feet, and so that's going to be an added dimension for our offense that, what did not fit West's game, his game last year, and with the offensive line we have returning, I think it's going to be a good fit for us offensively. So, Craig, if we played today or tomorrow, I would tell you we'd play all three of those guys. So it's really wide open as far as competition goes with Parker, Eli, and Matt.
That's exciting. And then what have you seen from the receiving core, just obviously replacing Logan Curry, just in terms of guys that are going to be able to be reliable, know how to get open, know how to read the defenses, and can kind of keep your quarterbacks just no matter who's back there passing, just on timing?
Yeah. So we, really, if you look at, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but probably 99% of our receptions from last year are gone. Cole Smith is the one that has the most experience returning. Cole will be a senior, had one touchdown catch on varsity last year. Was really Logan Curry's backup, and so just didn't get a lot of time because of that. But Cole has experience playing both sides of the ball, but he's going to be going into spring, he'll be our featured wide receiver. Cole is your prototypical slot receiver. A couple other guys that we're excited to see them step up. Jonathan Lynn. Jonathan started at corner, played some safety last year. So Jonathan probably has the most Friday night experience of any of our receivers, but it was primarily on the other side of the football as a defensive player in the secondary. So Jonathan's a guy that we're going to look to really to have a lot of experience. Has always repped at receiver. Just again, we haven't had a need to play him there, but we will this year. Nate Graven is a rising junior that we're excited to see what Nate can bring. Zach Alvarez is another junior that we're looking towards. So just going to be a lot of new faces, really, and guys that that are going to have opportunities. That's the exciting thing, that what we've really been preaching to them all offseason is what an opportunity they have. We're looking for 3, 4, 5 guys to really solidify who are going to be the go-to guys in the receiving core.
Yeah, for sure. It will be a huge opportunity. I think the season starts in about 20 weeks. So once that game kicks off, it's going to be crystal clear that, Fridays are back. But let's talk a little bit about the schedule this season. The only game I believe that's going to change is you'll play Archer out the gates instead of North Atlanta in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic. But just in terms of your region, I thought it was a really exciting one. You guys had a great game against Gainesville. I mean, ultimately, I think Darius Cannon had a big kickoff return, some big catches. But other than that, you guys went toe-to-toe with Gainesville last year. So just how excited are you just to be in another competitive region like that, to just get your guys prepared for the playoffs?
Yeah, well, we definitely feel like there's some good balance in our region. Definitely felt like that region championship game at Gainesville last year was one that in the late in the third quarter we let slip away, and to their credit, they certainly had a few guys step up and make some big plays. So we're excited to turn the page to this year. There's some changes within our region. We got a couple new coaches who will bring some changes there. Certainly, feel privileged to kick off the year in the Corky Kell and Dave Hunter Classic. The Archers bring a new challenge. Oracle. We're excited. Last year, our game with North Atlanta was one that you look back to just in the fourth quarter, not being able to make the plays on both sides of the ball. We had a lot of turnovers offensively, really in the whole game. That felt like we left points off in the fourth quarter. I had to be a part of that March. Uh,
Okay. Hey, Coach, sorry, the audio is breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, you went mute for about 20 seconds. I think it was just the connection. But yeah, I'm excited about that Archer game for sure. I mean, they had
Yeah,
a new head coach this last year. They're obviously ready to take that next step in year two. I did want to ask you just in terms of special teams, another area where you guys are replacing a senior. I mean, who has stepped up in that kicking role?
yeah. So losing Adrian Rose as our kicker, kickoff, and field goal extra point guy. Caden Macias is another one who kicked for us on JV. I think Caden's going to do a great job for us. Caden got a little bit of varsity experience. He's one that is super talented. He's a soccer player and is just super talented with his foot and had a few opportunities. So I think he'll be the guy that we're going to look to step into the kick and roll along special teams.
Okay. So that's Caden. And what year is he going to be?
Caden will be a junior.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, Coach, I'm going to let you go. Enjoy the rest of your spring break. And, um, yeah, what do you have next planned for the weekend? Just Easter weekend?
Yeah, Easter weekend with the family, church, and just enjoying a little bit more downtime as next week it'll get rolling here. Spring practice will be here before you know it. So a little bit of downtime before it all gets rolling some more.
Awesome. And then who do you guys scrimmage before the season?
Yeah, so in the spring we're going to scrimmage Woodstock, and then in the fall we will scrimmage Dawson County.
Awesome. All right. Well, Coach Kraft, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
Yep. We'll see you. All right. So there goes Coach Kraft. I thought that was interesting. The big takeaway is Braden O'Shields. He said he's going to be stepping up in the big role defensively. Colin Miller was such a force. Also, Brody on the defensive line, and then the quarterback battle. I mean, this was a team that averaged just about 90 yards rushing last year. They did the majority of their work through the air, and now they're going to have potentially a really exciting quarterback battle heading into the season. And he's talking about how these guys are a little more mobile than Wes Roberts. So I think they will look a little bit different, but it will be interesting to see how they come out. And they have a ton of talent on that offensive line. And once again, they played great last year. Only 4 losses: North Atlanta, Creekview, Gainesville, and then Hughes beat everyone last year. So 6A, it's going to be really exciting. North Forsyth will definitely be in the mix. So let's go ahead and take one more quick break and thank our sponsors, and then we'll have Coach Starks on.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So we are going to go to Class 7A now with North Paulding. And they had a tremendous season last year. Don't let the record fool you. Their losses were some really close ones. We televised a couple of them. 37-36 shootout with Kennesaw Mountain, and then the 51-49 loss to Walton in their final non-region game, then I thought this was really interesting about their region. That's Region 3 and 7A. They dropped their opener to Harrison 24-21. Thought Harrison was one of the more under-the-radar teams last year. Ended up making a strong push late. And then they beat McEachern, Hillgrove, and Marietta to close out the region championship, and then fell in a competitive Parkview game in the first round. So the big takeaway from that is every single one of their games were extremely close, and that offense was lighting it up. They'll have to replace their quarterback and a couple other playmakers, but I mean, last year they were a very talented offense, and even in that Walton game, everyone knows I'm a homer. I cheer for Walton, but they were playing so well and giving Walton's defense so much trouble. It was one of the few times where I was like, you know what? If North Paulding comes away with this game, I'm not even going to be mad. They earned it. And then Walton ended up having a crazy comeback at the end. That was the 51-49 victory. And that was a game that got moved up to Thursday last minute because of the hurricane that never even came through the Atlanta area. And it literally was bone dry, but that's a good thing. I didn't want a hurricane to come through, but yeah, so that was a tough loss. And I mean, you just think about it. You went toe-to-toe with Walton last year, a team that beat Buford, and then yeah, so I mean they were ranked. North Paulding cracked the ranking. If they would have beaten Walton in that game, that would have put them at 5-1, and then they end up winning the region. You win a region title in Class 7A, you were certainly doing things right. So Boone Anderson was their quarterback last year. That's something that North Paulding has had going for them for sure. Ross Malgrim before him, he set all the records at North Paulding. I don't know if Boone eventually eclipsed him or if he was kind of a 2-year starter that came in after Malgrim, but he had a huge year last year. 30 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. A really polished passer, 65% completions, 225 yards per game. Running the ball, they had Jalen Poe. He took the bulk of the carries, 18 touchdowns, 1,122 yards, 102 yards per game. And then, of course, Owen Dupree, one of their top playmakers, had a big year receiving the ball. But you look at how many different players got involved in the passing game last year, it was a ton. It was not just one guy, it was by committee, and that is a similar approach. When we talked to Coach Stark before the Walton game, that's exactly what he said. He goes, I feel like our offense has that same ability as Walton to be balanced. And every coach says that, but what does that really mean? It's a confidence factor. It's when you get into a third and long situation, if you're confident in your running game, then you can hit a quick pass, maybe leave yourself in a 4th and 1, 4th and 2 situation, and then run the ball for the first down if you need to. That's what having a balanced attack and confidence gives you. When you're a team that the defense knows that you're kind of hesitant to run the ball up the middle because you don't feel like you can get those 2 yards, it makes you one-dimensional. That is not North Paulding's offense. They know that they need to make sure they have both of those shored up, and that was by far the biggest trend last year in the state. I kept saying it. I've never seen more teams go for it on 4th down, and it's not just when it's the end of the half and you have the ball and, oh, if we don't get it, we're in their territory, it's okay. No, teams were aggressively going for it on 4th down. That has completely changed, something you didn't used to see because, I don't know, coaches didn't want to get second-guessed by the fans. But I feel like if you want to win in Georgia, you have to send that message offensively that it is pedal to the metal and picking up those are just devastating. How many times in that Walton North Paulding game were drives kept alive by big third down catches, big decisions on fourth downs, and then that ultimately is the difference. Also last year, North Paulding did an incredible job on special teams. It's one of the things he said. So he feels like every year, 3 games, you end up either winning or losing because of special teams. That can be the difference between a 7-3 season and a 10-0 season. Last year they finished 7-3 in the regular season, but as I mentioned, those were just last-second losses. They easily could have won those games. They were in position. The 1-point loss to Kennesaw Mountain, the 2-point loss to Walton, and then the 24-21 loss to Harrison, and they rebounded quite well from that. It's also after that Walton game, that Harrison one, they had a 2-week hiatus with a long bye after that. I feel like that's tough as well, especially heading into the region. So keeping the momentum going will definitely be a key for them. Let me look at defensively, though, because I remembered a name he was talking about that was a sophomore last year. We got him? Oh, sweet. Let's bring him on. Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you guys doing?
Doing well. All right, so give us a sense just you guys had a really great year. I was talking about some of those tough losses, but you guys won the region, played Parkview well in the first round, had a lot to build your hats, to hang your hats on, but what's the overall kind of sense of this upcoming season? What's the focus going to be on some of these positions you're going to have to fill? Okay, we'll see if we can get him back on. Okay, so defensively, Daniel Pitts is returning. He had a team-high 104 tackles. You got Austin Kowinski. He had 8 tackles for loss, 63 tackles, and then Aiden Maddox. Hey, Coach.
Hey, sorry.
So real quick, just you guys had a great senior class last year, but obviously big guys were stepping up in the underclassmen, Aiden Maddox, tons of guys defensively. But what's the offense going to look like this upcoming year?
Well, I think, we try to be balanced. I think we're going to look very similar to what we did last year. Obviously, we have a new quarterback and lost our top running back, so that's going to, we're looking for some guys to fill some roles there. And then we have explosive receivers. We're just not going to be as deep as we were last year.
Yep, the depth definitely stood up with that receiving core. It was definitely by committee.
Yes, we felt last year we had 6 receivers that could play and at a high level, and so this year we don't have quite the same amount of depth, but hopefully some of those younger guys will step up and play. And obviously, we think our whole line's going to be they're going to be bigger, and hopefully they'll be a little bit better than they were last year.
And in terms of quarterback, is that going to be Austin stepping into the role?
Day one, right now, it's looking like he's going to be there, and then he's going to be challenged by junior Bennett Morrison, and then we have a sophomore Tyler Neer.
Okay. And yeah, that is one of the things North Paulding has certainly had going for him. You guys had Ross Malgram, Boone Anderson. So, I mean, the quarterback role, you guys have been able to really get some of the state's best guys at the position year in and year out. But yeah, talk about the offensive line, just how big that's going to be for you guys just early on as you get these guys involved just to kind of establish their will and keep you guys balanced.
Yeah, definitely. Everything starts with those guys. I mean, if those guys can control the line of scrimmage and open up holes for the run game and allow the quarterback to go through his reads and his progressions, you always have a chance to be successful. We're going to have 2 new starters at tackle. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be Asher Bevins and Courtney Bennett Jr. And then we return our senior Chewy Carpenter at center. And then we're going to see what happens with the 2 guard positions.
And then defensively, looks like you guys are returning a lot of playmakers. what position or what area in particular are you just most excited about just during the springtime? Is it defensive line, linebackers, secondary, or just kind of all three levels of it? Okay, we lost him again. But yeah, in terms of their top tacklers last season, 4 of the 5 top tacklers will be back. Aiden Maddox, 16 tackles for loss last year. They had 60 as a team. He had 12 sacks. That's impressive. As I mentioned, they lost in the first round. If he's playing a couple more playoff games, you got to think he's getting more sacks than that. You have a 15-sack season. You're up there in terms of the state leaders. So he was elite last year as a junior, and that's Aiden Maddox. He is going to be a big-time star for them this season. They opened the year last year against Alatoona. They won 35-13. Alatoona ended up showing that they had one of the better defenses in the state. They had probably 3 or 4 straight shutouts to make a strong push late. Went into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, but they put up 35 on them. They beat East Paulding 49-24. They played Kennesaw Mountain. We mentioned that game. South Paulding 49-35. Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, man. Sometimes our service isn't the best up at the school. So,
No, it's all good.
but yeah, I mean, I was talking about the front, and then on the back end, Danny Pitts is returning, our free safety. So we're expecting those guys to kind of lead the way for the new guys that are going to be stepping up.
For sure. And then what do you like about this schedule? You guys had, I pointed out, just so many close games. You guys were right in it every single time. So you guys know how to take each game, one game at a time. But what do you like just opening the season against Alatoona? They'll have a new head coach. Obviously, after beating them last year, they're going to be motivated. But just talk about that non-region schedule.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is that they're all relatively close games, so that'll be good. Good rivalry. Our fans travel really well, so they'll be exciting. And on our total schedule, I think we have 5 new head coaches that are on our schedule, so that's going to be challenging. Learning the new systems and being able to get an idea of what they're trying to do. But yeah, Alatoona is really close down the road. Obviously, our kids enjoy playing them. And so we're looking forward to the challenge.
Certainly. And then, yep, you will play Walton again. That was such a crazy game, and I said before you came on, obviously I went to Walton. I'm a homer. That game in particular, though, I honestly started pulling for you guys. You guys played so well. It was one of the more exciting games I saw all year, and just ended up not turning your way. What is the message, though, when you guys were in all these close games? Do you just feel like sometimes they end up not going your way? Or how do you guys focus on just these close games, trying to turn that around?
Yeah, well, we got to learn how to finish. I think in the regular season, our 3 losses were by a combined 6 points, and then in the playoffs, we got beat by 6. So basically what we just told the kids is one more play, a better call by a coach, maybe a better adjustment, a better stop or a better execution on their part, and, there's a different outcome. So, we're close, we're knocking on the door in terms of being a good program. And if you want to be a good program, you have to beat those teams like Walton, and you have to do it on a consistent basis year in and year out.
For sure. And then I thought your region was really exciting down the stretch last year, and throughout. Anytime McEachern's on the outside looking in, that just shows kind of how competitive it's going to be once again this season. So just what do you think about that Region 3 lineup?
Yeah, it's a definitely challenging lineup. I think, every region in 7A in the state of Georgia is challenging. We have 5 teams, so 4 of them are going, and usually going into last week, all 5 of us were still alive for the playoffs. So, I think what's neat about our region is any given week, any team can win. Harrison beat us the first game, and then we end up running the rest of the table and end up winning the region championship. But, it's any week, anybody can win.
Yeah, for sure. And then even Marietta last year, I mean, I knew better, but some people seem to count them out after a slow start. And of course, they come alive late, make a really strong push. But who are you guys going to be scrimmaging just in the spring and before the season starts?
Yeah, we're playing Campbell in the spring, and then we have East Coweta in the fall scrimmage. So yeah, Marietta probably, when you look at their schedule, especially the beginning, I mean, they had one of the toughest schedules. I don't know what the ranking was, but if you look at their schedule, their first 4 or 5, that was as tough as anybody in the state.
Absolutely.
And then
Grayson week 1 and
yeah. Didn't they win a playoff game? I think they won their playoff game too, their first round of the playoffs, didn't they?
yeah, who did they beat? They beat someone. Let me see real quick.
They were, I don't know what their final record was, 5-5 or something like that, but probably one of the best 5-5 teams in the state.
Yeah, they beat Newton. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then they fell to, oh yeah, not only they beat Newton, it was 35-0. So they really,
Right.
Yeah. Well, interesting. But I mean, what else this off season has been exciting? What big 7-on-7s or big camps you guys have coming up?
Yeah, well, we always go to the Georgia Tech 7-on-7, so we'll go to that, and then we're trying to find another one, and then we'll host 2 OTAs. And so really in the spring and the summer, we just kind of focus on ourselves in terms of getting bigger, stronger, and faster in the weight room. And then, once spring hits, we're able to start learning the offense and really, get guys in the right position. Right now, we tell the guys, right now it's just trying to get the right guys on the bus. And then once spring football hits, then we'll try and get the guys in the right seat.
Awesome. Well, Coach Stark, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Best of luck the rest of the spring, and we'll see you in about 21 weeks kicking this season off.
Absolutely. You too. Appreciate all you do promoting high school football.
You bet. All right. So there goes Coach Stark and the Wolfpack. Yeah, it's going to be a great region. And, I mean, how interesting is it? Just you have Harrison, a team that gave everyone trouble late. I think they're going to be flying under the radar heading into this year. Obviously, Coach Stark knows that Coach Cassidy and those guys are on the rise. They had a really slow start to the season, kind of like Marietta, but came on and earned a number 3 seed. So yeah, they finished the season 4-8, but had huge wins down the stretch. Marietta, they're going to be battle tested. We've got North Paulding, McEachern, and then Hillgrove. So really a toss-up in that one, but North Paulding, the defending region champs, are going to try to go back-to-back in that department, get that home field advantage. And then that rematch with Walton midway through the season, that's going to be exciting. We'll see if it has the same fireworks as last year. But that's going to be it for today. I hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Go to Score Atlanta's YouTube page. We have all the content. You had an interview yesterday with West Forsyth, is that right? Okay, so Najee's YouTube page, he's talking to West Forsyth's lacrosse coach as they try to make history this year and win their first ever state title in what is a crazy Class 7A boys field with Lambert, your Waltons, your Bufords. Buford's coming to the scene. It'll be really great, and those playoffs are getting underway very soon. So be sure to check that out, but we'll see you on Monday.